the internal work yields those external results of human connection, the way you connect with the earth, the way you connect with your body, and the way you treat yourself. I'm a firm believer in this, is how you also treat other people.
Deanna is a sustainability-focused entrepreneur and human-centered designer, working intentionally through a lens of mental health, social impact, and intersectionality. She is passionate about humanizing the production process and encouraging a collective slowing down in the way we produce and consume. Her clothing brand, Vincetta, focuses on community building and education through storytelling, engaging collective discussions, and generating thought-provoking conversation and questions. Previously, she worked for big brands including J. Crew and Ralph Lauren, and spent 3 years as a venture fellow at a Sustainability Incubator in Brooklyn, New York. In this episode, we talk about how Deanna loves the creative challenge of working with what is already there, and how she cared about sustainability before she even knew what it was. You're listening to Going Conscious, the podcast where we discover new ways to live a more conscious life of fulfillment and freedom. Each week, I speak with entrepreneurs, academics, and changemakers who have made big transformations, left unfulfilling lives behind, and found meaning in this new world where purpose drives success. Let's get inspired to live our unique journeys to the fullest. Let's explore the impact we want to make and deepen our understanding of ourselves, each other, and this beautiful world around us. Live your freedom. I'm your host, Nikki Trott. In this episode, we talk about how Deanna's mission to normalise mental health was spurred by losing her mum, holistic sustainability, how internal work yields external results, breaking down social constructs, collectively slowing down, being more intentional about what we put out in the world, humanising customers and community, body acceptance, the importance of who you surround yourself with, feeling enough without any material item, and creating your own standards. Now let's go to our conversation. Deanna, hello and welcome to Going Conscious.
Hi, Nikki. So nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very excited to be having this conversation with you today. And I'm looking forward to finding out about you and your journey, because you founded your sustainable women's wear brand back in 2013. And so you've been doing this for a while. And you also are really focused on mental health and body acceptance for your brand, which I absolutely love. So I'm really excited to dive into this and find out more. But first, I wanted to ask you, what took you to creating a sustainable brand? What was the journey that took you there to discovering that purpose?
So I believe that even before I knew what sustainability was, it was something that I cared about very much and I practiced. So as I started creating, and even in school, I would find scraps and I would upcycle. And I was just always very curious on how to work within what already existed. I'm very fascinated by that process. And I think it actually forces you to be even more creative. And it feels like problem solving in a way. So I'm a big problem solver. And then I would say on the social aspect, mental health is something that's always been really important to me. I lost my mother at a very young age due to her own mental health. And so I've made it a mission in my life to just normalize this and normalize discussions around it and making people feel okay that we go up and down in life and sometimes we hit pain points and difficult moments. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to find that support. And I would say the body acceptance portion of that was that we all have sort of varied relationships with our own bodies. And I think I'm trying to take a more holistic approach to sustainability as well as creation and really giving people the tools to fully embody themselves. And I hope that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you talk about this holistic approach and really helping people to love themselves in the end, I think. I mean, the body positivity conversation is one I'm so passionate about. When I was working in fashion in London, I was a trustee of a charity called All Walks Beyond the Catwalk, which not everyone's heard of, but actually it was the organization which really put the conversation on the map and caused big change in the UK, which rippled across the world around body positivity and campaigning for it in fashion and beauty, which is such a long journey. But I completely agree with you that when we start to really love ourselves and be able to fully accept ourselves rather than judging ourselves based on criteria that were given to us by external influences, other people's ideas or our generation's idea of beauty, when we're able to really let go of those standards and create our own standards for ourselves, we completely transform how we're able to love ourselves, which I think is the basis of human happiness.
Absolutely. And I think this allows us to also change our dynamic with others as well and how we contribute to society and the way we view the world around us. So I'm just a firm believer that the internal work yields those external results of human connection, the way you connect with the earth, the way you connect with your body, and and the way you treat yourself. I'm a firm believer in this is how you also treat other people.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that. It's really like the connection between the internal and the external. And this keeps coming up for me in so many different contexts. And the work that I do as well is all about helping women internally with blockers and things that stand in their way in their minds, and then also with the external stuff around strategy and creation. And I love how you talk about that, how it's like this internal work that then yields external results.
Yeah, and I think externally there's so much going on, right? There's all these social constructs, what society expects of us, and what the fashion industry pushes as this ideal beauty standard. And obviously, that narrative has been changing with the body acceptance movement, but I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think it's this idea that we have to reach a level of perfection even within our day to day lives. So you kind of see these lifestyles that are perpetuated and these highlight reels, as we know, on social media. And I think it compounds over time. And I think it's very harmful to our psyche and to the way we value ourselves, especially when you have the social hierarchy, right? And you're comparing yourself constantly. And I think we all do it. I think it's only natural. But I try to encourage a collective slowing down so that we can step away, spend more time with ourselves, be more introspective, and that way, when we re enter society, we can contribute in a more like productive manner.
I love that. So, what does that mean? What does that collective slowing down look like?
Oh, I think so many things. I think part of it is spending less time on social media, actually, even if that's reducing it by 1 hour a day. I think it means consuming at a slower pace. So really just thinking through each purchase. And I'm not saying we're all perfect, right? That's not the point. But with each item that you want to bring into your life, just really trying to think through, does this align with my values? Does this align? Do I need this right now? And so it can be anything from the food we consume to the clothing we consume to even the information we consume. And I think this time spent on social media, we're just taking in so much information all the time that I tend to wonder, well, can we think for ourselves as well? And so I really encourage people to be introspective, ask themselves questions, slow down. And I think in that slowing down, in the way we consume information, in the way we consume product and food, I think we deepen the connection with ourselves and we kind of figure out, what do we want? What do we need? And just feeling like more aligned with ourselves. And then I guess on the production end of things, companies need to just stop making so much product all the time and and be more intentional with what they put out into the world instead of perpetuating the cycle of new sale, new sale, new sale. And it's very harmful, I think, to the people making the product. It's harmful to the consumer. And I think it is also harmful to the company too, because I think it reduces brand value over time. So I hope that wasn't too long, Nikki.
No, not at all.
And
That was so great, and I love your insight around reducing brand value. I agree. I haven't thought of that quite like that before, and I think that's a really good point. And with this collective slowing down, which you so stand for, how do you then marry that with building a successful women's wear business, Vincetta? How do you bring that together?
I will be honest, it's had some pain points and resistance, and it has taken a lot of education. So, as you can imagine, I'm a one-person team, and while I do have interns and freelancers and now a wholesale rep, I'm doing most of this on my own. And so I think it has had some pain points in terms of creating while also educating and using completely different parts of my brain at all times. And I'm taking a moment to reevaluate that. But what I will say is just bringing humanity into it and humanizing your customers and your community. And I think to me, that creates a really strong bond. So that way, whenever I decide to shift my business model, which I'm in the process of doing, I think we've spoken about that offline as well. I can take my people with me and take them on that journey. And I kind of know their needs in a deeper way. And I think you allow your community to also help shape where your business goes. But then I would say on the production cycle, it is very frustrating because I am producing things more slowly. When the customer's used to seeing something new, every month, every other week, and I can't keep up with that. So quite frankly, I had to just accept that's not my ball game. I'm not participating in that. And so I'm creating a new genre and a new conversation. And I think that adds its own value, honestly. And my money isn't always tied up in production. So that really, I think, creates less stress on my business and my cash flow as well.
Yeah, I love that. You're really just creating your own standard because the standard of the industry is not one that you align with. So you create your own. That's amazing. And you talked about the importance then of humanizing customers to build this community and strong bond. What does that mean then? How do you humanize customers?
I laugh about this all the time because I'm like, it's not rocket science, yet we don't do it enough. I think I have a lot of conversations around just humanizing ourselves, humanizing our production partners, and just like really leading with empathy and having a higher level of accountability as well for yourself and those around you. And it's something that I'm still learning to better define, but it starts with a conversation and it starts with knowing people's names and recognizing people and taking that time to note the term clienteling, right? I think there is a form of that involved, and remembering different people's hobbies and what they like, and viewing them more holistically outside of just what they like to purchase. Of course, that is important, and remembering their size and how they like things to fit. That is not new. This has existed, but I think adding on to that, painting the fuller picture of who they are as a person and their desires and what brings them joy and what is their range of emotion. And I think that does take more time, and you have to hold a lot more space for different people, but I don't know. I just think that's completely worth it.
And what about body acceptance? So, what are the things you're doing with your brand to help create more body acceptance? I know you've got a big range of sizes and your imagery is really diverse, but are there any other things that you do, maybe more subtle things?
So, body acceptance within the company or body acceptance within my brand would be obviously, as you said, I have a wide size range. I go from an extra small up to a 5X. And I think imagery is a really important part in that. And I think catching the nuances and the emotions within within the relationship with ourselves and our bodies without having to scream it, right? I think it's in all of the subtleties and the linguistics. And I think also posing prompts and asking questions to the community as well and how they define the relationship with themselves and their bodies also creates a really nice narrative. And I guess the last part is just not altering images. I think that's really important. So just showing real bodies.
Yeah, amazing. And were you always, I know you said you've always been interested in sustainability. So were you always working in some way around sustainability, or did you have a kind of career before you worked out how to tap into your purpose with your work?
Yes. So I started actually working in corporate fashion. I started working, my first job was with J. Crew. And I also worked with Ralph Lauren. And I was working a lot with the mass production end of things. I started as an assistant designer and worked my way to a designer. And what was expected was so unreasonable. And it was just, at one point, I was designing like 20 styles a day
Wow.
and just having to crank things out, right? Without the budget for a fit model, without the budget of an assistant, without the budget for anything else. So you can imagine, right? I'm designing it. I'm doing the technical designs for it, which means I'm creating the technical package of explaining the specs and how it should be made, communicating with the factory, receiving the prototype, fitting it on myself, sending notes back. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And I think if you want to tie in that mental health portion, it's not sustainable for creators. And then if you think on the people producing it, it's not sustainable either. So I kind of just, I saw too much in a way, but I'm glad I saw it because it opened my eyes and said, well, I know what I don't want. And I know that my pillars of body acceptance and mental health and just the humanization of everything and connecting with the world have always been important to me. So I think through those experiences I learned what I didn't want and what I didn't want to contribute to.
Yeah, absolutely. And was it hard for you to make the change then from this corporate crazy world and these big globally recognized brands to creating your own brand based on your values and your pillars?
I had started building slowly and it felt very vulnerable to start a completely new project or conversation, but it's something that I felt so deeply inside of me that I just had to do. So I started slow, and then I did a round of investment for the company, and I was quite young when I started this, so I was in my early to mid 20s. And it was scary. I made a lot of mistakes. I learned from those mistakes. And I would say it was not difficult to do because I did start slowly. But then when I dove in, I kind of saw even more issues within the industry as well, even within my own company. So some of those same issues did follow. And building off what we just talked about now in terms of starting my own company and coming from a more corporate setting, I think in some ways it was very difficult because I was holding myself to this very high standard that I should reach this very high level and appear to be much larger of a brand externally than I really was. And I think that created its own issues. And so over the years, you know, as I said, I've made mistakes. Any entrepreneur has. And I'm constantly learning from those. And I take them with me as I rebuild other iterations of my business. And so the way I kind of view my business is like version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. And so version 1.0 is where I was like really learning a lot and making those mistakes and understanding the landscape a bit more and the pain points of the industry in a much deeper way, and how I can help create those new standards and new conversations. And then I would say version 2.0 is when I decided to leave the fashion calendar behind completely. And that was new territory, Nikki. I mean, that was very vulnerable and very scary to start telling stores I'm not functioning in the same way as everyone else. also having to really deepen the education with the consumer. It takes a lot of energy and time and investment to do that. And now I'm going into version 3.0, as I'd like to call it, and I don't know what that looks like yet, quite frankly. I'm in research and development stages right now, but I do know that I'm taking what I've learned from version 1.0 and 2.0, as well as my previous history in a more corporate setting, and I'm going to take that with me into 3.0.
Amazing. I love that. This ever evolving. And I think that we can really trip ourselves up sometimes by trying to do everything absolutely perfectly, especially when it's in the realm of sustainability, and just doing the very best that we can at every stage and evolving and improving constantly. Iterating is the only way, I think, to really progress with making a positive impact.
Oh, 100%. I think it is an iterative process. And I think at times it's okay to check your ego and say, let's take a step back. Let's slow down for a minute. And I think that comes with the collective slowing down that we talked about earlier, too, is practicing that yourself. And that's so hard to do when you just want to go, 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 and you're very passionate and excited and you really want to build something and build it quickly. But the truth is, it is a journey and it is about evolution. So, can we enjoy when we're in the midst of the evolution instead of saying, oh, well, I want to get there already? Well, then we're never going to enjoy that process. So, yeah, I think you make a great point, Nikki.
I agree with you so much. Absolutely. There's this sense in our society, in our culture, of always wanting to be at the destination and not really living and enjoying and being in the journey. And of course, life is made up of the journey. The destination is constantly moving too. So I really like how you put that.
It's true. And this is why I think it's so important that we need to just spend more time with ourselves. And if we get stressed or anything comes up for us, try to view that as information and write it down, talk it out, do whatever you need to do. But life is full of ebbs and flows. And what I constantly try to practice, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, right? I'm absolutely a student of this, but trying to ride the waves and surround yourself with people that mirror characteristics that you'd like to see within yourself and can sort of mirror positivity back to you when you're having a hard time finding it as well. And people that will encourage you to slow down instead of try to compete, step over others, etc., like perpetuate the kind of behaviors that I'm sure you and I maybe don't align with, or I know I don't. And so it is a journey, and I think there's a lot of curiosity involved and self exploration involved, and just bringing it back to that idea of slowing down and just enjoying the process. And when times get hard, that's okay. It's an opportunity to learn and slow down, take note, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you enjoy Going Conscious, please subscribe for a new episode every Wednesday. If you think your friends and networks would benefit from listening, please share this podcast of fulfillment and freedom with them. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. It's great to read what you think, and your support makes a big difference. Together, let's grow our courage and tools to transform and live the lives we really want to. As well as creating Going Conscious, I work as a transformation coach and conscious brand consultant. I'm on a mission to help holistically maximize conscious entrepreneurs to drive positive changes for themselves, others, and the planet. I can help you to transition and level up personally, and I can help your brand grow and make a bigger impact. To connect with me and find out more about how we can work together, find me on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website nikkitrott.com. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and let's talk about your path of growth and development. And you mentioned this kind of education of consumers as well, as everything's changing fast. What are the most important things that consumers are coming to understand and need to learn about now?
I think that too is an ever evolving conversation. I will say I spent years educating people on the sales cycle and consumption and how to be more intentional and thoughtful, right? Become more of a conscious consumer. I think we made progress there, but I will say, since I've gotten busy with other things in my business, and education is still existing, but I'm not able to dedicate as much time to it. I do notice kind of a fall off there a little bit. And I think a constant reminder needs to be happening, and it's a constant conversation. And that's why I think the most productive way to educate is just by humanizing the process and reminding people that the people sewing the clothing and you are fulfilling all the orders. And just, I think it's a much more deep rooted issue, and I wish I had like one answer for you, but I think this is a much more deep rooted issue. So I think start with the humanization and have it be a conversation. And I think another thing is not everybody even knows what a conscious consumer is, and there are a lot of phrases that are thrown around that might be a little confusing actually. So this is something in version 3.0 that I'm learning on how can we be more productive in our education and have it be longer lasting education, things that really stick and kind of getting to the root cause instead of focusing on just the symptoms.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And hopefully, more and more brands will help share the burden of that education as well.
I really hope so too, because I've got to say, it can be very exhausting to just feel sometimes that you're holding that burden alone. And I know that there are a lot of influencers and brands that follow my brand, and I get messages from them all the time and questions. And I think they want to talk about it. I just don't know that they have the education themselves to do so. And so in version 3.0, this is what I'm hoping to also, introduce.
Amazing. So, how would that maybe look? Is there anything you can tell us about that education for other brands and influencers in the sustainable space?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm currently developing, and it's something that I really hope resonates because we certainly don't want misinformation spread, and we want people to feel abundant and well equipped in this area to be able to educate and maybe humanize themselves in their own processes and continue adding to the conversation. So again, I'm trying to build that out right now, and I am very much looking forward to it because I think it's definitely a need in the market right now.
Yes. Amazing. So interesting. I love that. So, you're really looking at also crossing into different business models and providing more of a holistic experience to the people who are part of your community.
Absolutely. And this is what I'm passionate about, Nikki. Yes, I am a designer. I started as a designer, but I have so much more inside of me that just I would love to tap into, and so much more value that I can bring and help push the needle forward outside of designing clothing. So again, I'm zooming out. I'm in research and development stages right now, and I'll continue to design, but I'm trying to figure out how to create a fuller picture and how to encompass more parts of myself within the business.
Amazing. I love that. You'll have to keep me posted. It sounds really exciting.
I'm very excited. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous, but I'm very, very excited.
Amazing. So, Deanna, what does personal success look like to you, and how has this changed since the corporate J. Crew days?
I would say personal success to me is in the relationship you hold with yourself and those around you, and just your personal relationships. And I think the way that you value yourself, the way you treat others. And to me, honestly, as much as I love material items, I think feeling like you are enough without any material item, to me, that's it. That's the part. That's it for me, because just feeling like you are enough and you are present and you are living life to the fullest, like every day you're really doing your best to just be part of the journey and lead with empathy and curiosity and create meaningful conversations and laugh and have fun and all of it.
Beautiful. I love that. That really links back to conscious consumption as well, doesn't it? Around, why are you actually purchasing something? And I remember when I used to work in Topshop in London, in Oxford Street, which was, I think, the biggest fashion store in the world at that time. And when I was a teenager, I was 17, and the consumption was so much about, I think, filling a gap in ourselves that I noticed in myself and my friends, because we were so young and we absolutely did not really know ourselves yet at all. And there was just this sense that once you purchase that, then you'll be complete, then you'll be happy. And then, of course, that doesn't work. So you do it again and again and again, and this constant cycle. And I think that's this really scary part about fashion, that it can be so addictive in that way. Whereas on the other side, of course, you can purchase for completely different reasons, to really consciously choose an item that aligns with your values, that you believe you will wear until it's just threads, and that you need and will love. And I don't think that the industry and the way the industry communicates, it allows us really to develop that conscious consumption at all.
I completely agree because, as you can see, the fashion calendar is designed to have new and then it goes on sale. So it's like immediately discrediting that product and all of the hard work and resources that went into it. And quite frankly, the earth cannot continue to handle this level of production and consumption. We've got to slow it down. And I think it starts with self development, actually, truly. Because when you feel so content and good in your own self, you don't need anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking as it pertains to fashion and like material items. And so when you go to purchase something, it's because it's something that you desire, something that you really want to cherish and hold on to, and maybe pass down to your child one day. Or once you're done with it, does it hold resale value? Can you then resell it, put it back into the world, give it a second life, or give it to a friend? And I think it starts with the self connection and feeling like you are enough, and that this purchase isn't going to be the answer. It's just something to treat yourself with, or it will enhance your life, but it's not the answer.
Yes, exactly. That's so key. It's not the answer. It's so true. I think I bought something fashion related every single month from the age of 16 till 29, I'm pretty sure. And that was, living in London, working in central London, working in the fashion industry, also getting big discounts and things, which didn't help. It definitely fueled the fire. But I wouldn't say I was obsessed, not at all. And I think I had a lot less than a lot of my friends. But still, every month, there was this cycle. And since my spiritual awakening of some sorts, when I was 29, I mean, I have bought a few things that I've needed and a couple of things to really enjoy, but I couldn't tell you now the last thing I bought. I'd have to really think about it, because I have more than enough. I'm still trying to get rid of more things, even though I've got rid of the vast majority. And yeah, I completely have experienced that personally in my own life, this complete correlation between buying fashion and self-development.
Oh, yeah. And look, I'm not going to discredit that getting dressed and picking an outfit absolutely feels great. And it is a form of self expression. Absolutely. And especially as we think about larger bodies who do not have the same access to exciting silhouettes and colors and qualities, that is changing. But I know that, it's a very nuanced conversation. There are a lot of layers and facets to it. But I think if we can just slow down and buy more consciously, I know it helps. It helps change the direction that this industry has been headed in for so long. And I do believe in the power of the consumer. I believe in the power that they can help change the direction. They have buying power. And obviously we're talking about this with a level of privilege, but anyone who's listening to this does hold that, right? So we hold a lot of power with every dollar that we spend and the companies that we support. And look, I'm not saying we're going to be perfect all the time, and it's just a practice, Nikki, just like with spirituality or yoga or any kind of form of a practice. When you fall off, you have the mindfulness and the self awareness to acknowledge that, and then you can just get right back on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, it's really important that we give ourselves grace and that we're kind to ourselves as well as we navigate this while still living as part of our society, and having certain things that we need or enjoy, but looking at how we can do that in the most conscious way. And I think that's why it's so important that we can really understand more conscious and sustainable, beautiful brands like yours so that we can see actually I do have the option. The option is there for me to be able to purchase aligned with my values.
Absolutely. Like you no longer have to choose between sustainability and your values and something that looks really thoughtful and beautiful. And there are so many brands that exist now in that space. I will say one hope in my next iteration of the business, Nikki, is that I can provide other tools of self-expression beyond just clothing. That is just one tool, and there are so many others. So I'm very excited about developing that.
I love it. Yes. Amazing. A holistic set of self expression tools. Yeah, I can't wait to see where you take it. Amazing. Deanna, as we come to the end of our time today, is there a key takeaway or message from the conversation that you'd like to share?
I just want to encourage people to participate in this collective slowing down and to create your own standards. And when this idea of fear of missing out or not being part of what the societal norms are, like if there's a fear of not participating in that, I just encourage you to just be with yourself for a moment and try to explore your own standards and connecting with yourself instead of trying to reach all these other standards that have been created by popular culture and society. And then you said, Nikki, to recommend a book, and I'm reading one that is called Existentialism is a Humanism. I love it so much because it's the exploration of human nature and kind of living with purpose. And it's by Jean-Paul Sartre. So highly recommend that.
Amazing. Wow. That sounds really great. Thank you so much. And I love how you say to really create your own standards and just look inside yourself. It's the most important thing. Thank you so much. And lastly, Deanna, where's the best place for listeners to find you and your work online?
So you can find me on my website, vincettastudio.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Vincetta Studio.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful speaking with you today.
Thank you so much, Nikki, for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with the lovely Deanna. I think it's incredible how she's really developed a holistic approach to her business. It's not just a clothing business, she's actively promoting slowing down of consumption and is focused on helping people to develop in their mental health. She approaches this in her unique way, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she unveils next. But I've also noticed a pattern in the conscious entrepreneurs I work with and interview. A pattern that business is becoming more holistic, and just selling a product isn't enough anymore to build a brand that really sticks with a deeply engaged and loyal community. Personal development and personal wellness also needs to somehow come into it. I'm interested to see how this evolves further. Deanna talks about the importance of who you surround yourself with, and I think we can't be reminded of this enough. The relationships we have around us have such a huge impact on how we feel within ourselves, how we approach life, and even how our business grows. Do you feel intentional about the people you spend most of your time with? Are there any relationships that take more than they give to you, that you instinctively know you need to create some distance from? I love how Deanna shares her vision of success as feeling enough without any material item. It can be easy, especially in our Western society, to feel that material things somehow validate us. That designer bag or gorgeous new dress or something cool that everyone else wants. I've certainly been there myself, especially when I spent a decade working in the fashion industry and not on the conscious side. But really, every time we feel validation from something material, we are reducing our value. We're reducing our value of ourselves to something which is external, fleeting, and shallow. Something we're even ourselves likely to not still value in the years to come. The cycle that we all know leads to constant craving and desire for more, because any material item can never really be enough. But once we find our feeling of completeness inside ourselves, we no longer need to crave for things. And not only do we find peace and happiness, all of our relationships are also improved, and we can start to really be satisfied in the present. That is, to really live. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe now. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and short review. If you think people you know might benefit from listening to Going Conscious, please share it with them. I know I get much of my inspiration from podcasts which are shared with me. For all episodes, our library and more, visit goingconscious.com. Your support to spread this positive message of fulfillment and freedom means so much. As well as hosting Going Conscious, I help conscious entrepreneurs to transition and unleash their power and purpose with my transformation coaching and conscious brand consulting work. Discover more on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website, nikkitrott.com. I'd love to hear from you and to talk about your goals, questions, or how we can work together. And if I don't hear from you before then, see you next Wednesday on the next episode of Going Conscious. As always, live your freedom.